Jim, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, man, I'm excited to be on, Mark. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We have followed you from afar for a while. It's exciting to have you on, exciting to dive into today's topic. But before we get there, not everybody watching or listening may know who you are. So take a couple minutes, tell us who you are and specifically what you've got going on at home in terms of like your dad life.
Yeah, totally. So I was just asked yesterday to be the Linfield University football chaplain. And my son is actually a 4-year varsity starter as a punter of all things. And so they asked me the same question. They said, hey, tell us a little about yourself. And so here's what I said. I said, I am the son of the one true king. I am the husband of a beautiful woman. I am the proud father of 3 fine sons. I love to hunt. I love the outdoors. I believe most men are soft. I believe to swim against the grain. I believe to make decisions against yourself. I believe in finishing strong. These are things that really comprise who I am, right? I believe a man is as a man does. I believe when a man gets it, everyone wins. And that's really who I am. I'm a 55-year-old guy. I'm kind of, trying to hang on to that youth. Earlier in the year, I had a goal to bench press 225 20 times. I actually did it pretty fast.
Oh, wow.
So now my goal as a 250-pound man, my goal is 20 push-ups or pull-ups at the end of the year. And I'm right about 15 right now. So trying to, stay in the game, stay healthy, be my best version. I'm really, really committed to John 10:10, which I'll tell you about John 10:10 at the end of the podcast. But John 10:10 says, I have come that you may have life and have it to the fullest. And so that's really my driving force. My wife is a flight attendant and we travel everywhere. I have 3 grown sons. They're 23, 25, and 27. The 27-year-old is getting engaged this weekend. The 25-year-old got married last month. I do have a granddaughter, and we are taking her to my hometown, San Luis Obispo, California, this weekend for her first plane flight and to see her first sea lion and to go to the coast. So that's who I am. I love my family. I'm deeply, deeply committed to my family. And I believe that success in life is that those who know you the best respect you the most.
Man, there's a lot there to unpack.
I know. I'm a complicated guy.
Okay, before I forget, you're 250 pounds. How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot 254 this morning.
Dude.
Yeah. When I was born, my mom always tells me this story. Every birthday she calls me, oh, Jimmy, it was like giving birth to twins. My chest was bigger than my head when I came out. Normally the head is bigger than the chest. So she said it was like giving birth to twins. And so, I got made fun of when I was a young guy. My chest was so big, but when you start bench pressing 400 and you're a full ride scholarship in football, you go, hey, the chest isn't such a bad deal.
Not at all.
So anyway, yeah, so that's me. I'm trying to keep myself under those 40 genes. I'm still at 37, 38, so just hanging on, baby.
It's a good thing you're a good Christian man, because I wouldn't want to run into you in a dark alley if you were anything other than a good guy.
Oh man, it's funny when people go, well, how do I recognize you and your wife? I go, Beauty and the Beast, baby. Just look for Beauty and the Beast.
So where did you play ball?
I played in California, Santa Clara University. And so we would be in the same division as North Dakota State. We would
right on.
In fact, one year we did play them. They won the Natty, and we were right, semifinals. And they, of course, go through and crush everybody on the way to the Natty.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and for those listening, context, I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So North Dakota State is very familiar with South Dakota State, which is just north of where I live. So
yeah, those two guys are rivals. So the league that they're in would have been the league that my team was in, but we lost the football program to girls soccer.
Oh,
Title IX. Yeah. Back in about 92.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could go down a rabbit hole on that one.
I know. I almost said all my kids played soccer until they started playing sports, but I decided not to.
It's interesting that your son is a punter, because I
know
my son is big into football. It's really the only sport he cares about. And of course, every little kid thinks they're going to go play in the NFL. And I'm like, buddy, the chances of that happening are very, very slim, unless you are a good kicker or punter. And then you've got a legit opportunity.
Well, and my son, I always tease him. I go, hey man, you're barely a football player. So just come on. But I just tease him, but he's a phenomenal athlete. He kicks and punts. And in fact, 2 years ago, he was the #1 ranked punter in the whole nation for Division III football.
Wow.
For a while, but his team wins so many games, he doesn't get enough punts.
Oh, sure.
And so he doesn't get the recognition because the teams that get the kids that are all division are the bad teams.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So he's just finishing up his senior year.
Very exciting stuff, man. Well, let's dive in because, like I said, like you outlined, there's a lot to unpack there. Today, we're going to be diving into your new book. And for those listening, I'm holding it up on the screen here. It is called Strong Men, Dangerous Times, and a very much needed book in everything that we've got going on in the world today. You know, most would consider that 10 books is probably enough. You know, I could probably call it good after 10 books. So what led you to write your 11th book? Because this is your 11th book. What prompted you to write this one?
Yeah, and my 12th one is almost done here. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I have a message inside of me that God has put in me. I had when God called me to work with men, it was a radical thing. And I've just got something I got to say. And so the best way for me to do that is I love to write. And it's just to speak it to men on paper. I'd love to do some audio stuff eventually where guys can get Audible books, because a lot of our guys are guys who are in the stress bubble of life and they're driving, don't have time to read. Mm-hmm. But I just think that we live in a day and age when men have been vilified, and it's their fault. Yeah. And I believe we live in a day and age where men have been identified as the problem, and it's true. But I believe with all my heart that men are also the solution. If you have a problem, the solution lies in that same catalyst that created the problem, right? And so if we can fix the men, I think we can fix our world. I wrote this book because men are really confused. You know, I'm seeing personal pronouns put in front of the email names now, he, him, hers, whatever. I'm seeing all this crazy stuff. I live in Oregon, man. It's crazy. And men need a target to shoot at. So you're a hunter, Mark. So when you're sighted in a rifle, you usually take that gun and bore sight it. And then what I do is I go to 25 to 50 yards and I shoot. Once I bore sight it, and I try to just put the bullet on paper. And then I back up to 100 and I try to put a 3-shot half-inch group on paper. So this book is that first section where you put that bullet on the paper. The book I'm writing right now will be out on Father's Day next year. It's called The Full Capacity Man. That's really dialing it in. But what we've done with this book is we've said manhood is 5 things. So if you're going to shoot at the target of manhood, you have to do these 5 things. These 5 things make up a man. And in the book, we use a mountain illustration, a climb, and a descent to give guys a word picture. So that's the whole purpose, man, just to give guys a target to shoot at in this day and age where men are confused.
Amen to that. And we're going to get to those 5 things here in a little bit. I'm always curious what goes through the minds of an author when they write a book. How did you land on the title?
So it's funny. I wrote this book before under the title, The Man Card.
Okay.
Thinking, hey, give me your man card. If you don't do these 5 things, give me your man card. And I realized it was catchy, but not timeless. And I wanted to put a title out there that was timeless, but catchy. You know, my wife likes to dress trendy, but classy. So I wanted the book to be a book that in 10 years, 20 years, you could go, oh, wow. Because I think we've been living in dangerous times for hundreds of years, forever. So dangerous times is not about this toxic masculinity garbage or all this stuff going around. We're in dangerous times, period. And so we need strong men, and strong men are different than weak men, just as men are different than males. And that's why I put that title together. Do you want to be a strong man or a weak male? And so strong men, dangerous times. It is dangerous to be a strong man. It's kind of like that trophy mule deer. That trophy mule deer is hunted like no other mule deer. People go after that mule deer because there's nothing like a 190 mule deer. They pass up the little forkies all the time, right? That's like the weak male. Nobody cares about that guy. He's anonymous. But that guy who's in the game, guy like you, Mark, who's doing a podcast, you're a business owner, you know, there's a target on your chest. People are coming after you. And so, we welcome that, right? Because that's what men do. But there's a strength that has to happen when you come against resistance. Like I'm trying to pull this big old body up 20 times on the pull-up bar. That resistance is very, very difficult, but the result of that resistance is strength.
Right. And as men, especially Christian men, when we run into that resistance, it's usually a sign that we're doing something right. We're doing something that the enemy is afraid of.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I just had a guy on, I posted a video. I was on the New Mexico, Colorado state line. I posted a video from the book I'm writing, and one of the chapters about being devout. And I said, hey, 3 things the Bible teaches in the original Greek. The 3 things that a devout man does is he goes to church regularly, he serves others faithfully, and he lives a holy life biblically. And I had a pastor in Greeley, Colorado, call me out and say, hey, I hope you fall. This is garbage. Why don't you stay in the desert? And so I just reached out to him personally. And I'm like, why would a pastor, a fellow brother in Christ, wish this on me? And it came down to, well, I don't think the Bible teaches that you have to go to church to be devout or do these things you mentioned. And I'm like, well, I don't want to go to your church, bro.
Yeah, no joke.
But I wasn't angry, Mark. I was happy. I'm like, I want to be persecuted. I want people to come after me because that's when I know I'm doing something right.
100%.
Yeah.
The audience for your books, I probably can say that safely, as well as my audience, serve Christian men. And I would guess that I'm still reading this thing, but how does your book speak to a guy who's maybe not all in on Christianity?
Yeah, totally. So what we did, Mark, when we crafted this target for men, I wanted to be very careful because a lot of times, as you know, in the church, we have our own little Christianese language.
Yeah.
And so we speak Christianese and we don't necessarily speak truth. We think everything happens in our Christian world. Like I've heard stuff like this: you can't be a real man without being a Christian. That's not true. I know great men who are not Christians, and I know horrible men that are. So we wanted to cross demographic lines, racial lines, timelines. We want to cross every span of that we could think of and come up with a definition of manhood that was true. And so in doing that, 4 of the 5 things that we list have nothing to do with God per se. When you hear them, you'll be like, oh, this makes sense. But the apex of manhood is ultimately Jesus Christ, which is our 3rd point. So we do have that in there. And I'll tell you a funny story. So I tell a story in the first chapter of the book about a couple that went out to get Kentucky Fried Chicken. And in the box of chicken, there was no chicken. It was just money. And when the guy went to turn the money in, the manager was so impressed, he wanted to call the news and say, I want to bring you on the news. I've never met somebody with such integrity in my life. And the guy goes, no, you can't do that. He goes, no, I can't believe you returned the money, thousands of dollars. And he goes, buddy, you can't call the news. He goes, why? He goes, see that woman over there in the car with me? He goes, yeah, that ain't my wife. But I had a guy must have been from India. He had an Indian name. And he said, I really liked your book, Mr. Ramos. But I did not like the part, it got boring in the middle. In the middle was the God part. And he said, I just really think that you should take the part out of the book that talks about the fried chicken because all of us are equal, even the chickens. He was offended by the chicken part.
Interesting.
And I thought, oh, you're not going to like my next book because the opening scene is I'm carrying a dead deer out of my shoulders in 100-degree weather. So he probably won't like that part. But so our audience does attract multiple, guys from all over the place. But we wanted to make sure our definition of manhood was not only biblically true, but culturally true, globally true. And so, yeah, I think it really, and I write in a language that I think men really can relate to, especially men who live in small towns, who are outdoorsy, that kind of guy. I really don't appeal to the city guys. I mean, look at the wall behind me. I appeal to the small town guys. I appeal to guys in South Dakota. Those are my guys.
Right on. Well, it is very relatable. I'll give you that. It's a good read.
Yeah.
The subtitle is 5 essentials every man must possess to change his world. Now, somebody who hears that or has read it might consider or think that there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak, right? So what makes the 5 things in the book essential, quote unquote?
Yeah. So again, when we were defining what a man is, we thought, okay, what things must a man implement to make him so? In other words, what does he actually do? Men come in all shapes and sizes. I know men who are round. I know men who have to wear shoes to not fall through the cracks in the cement. I know men who drive Priuses. I know some. I know men who drive lifted trucks. I know men who hunt. I know men who are vegans. I know men who are liberal. I know men who are conservative. I mean, men come in all shapes and sizes, but we realized there were 5 things that if a man does these, he really sets himself out apart from other men. And those 5 things build upon each other. And it took about 4 years to dial these in. We started with 4 things and changed 2 and moved them around. And, I read about 50 books a year. And so through my reading and research, all the things, I realized these are the 5 things. So that's how we came. And again, this is like Gary Chapman saying there are 5 love languages. Well, Gary decided that. That's outstanding material, but Gary decided that, just like Ramos decided there are 5 things. So there may be some biological experiment comes out and proves me wrong.
This podcast is part of the Edify Podcast Network. Edify is a faith-inspiring app that brings together thousands of the best Christian podcasts in one place for your listening enjoyment. Cut through the noise and grow your faith by diving into the world's top Christian podcasts today. Download the Edify app for free from the App Store or Google Play, or by going to edify.app. That's EDIFI.app.
Oh, well, we have been dancing around these 5 things for a while. So if you're comfortable listing the 5 things, let's do that if you can do so without giving away too much of the book.
Yeah, totally. So imagine you're climbing a mountain. I'm getting ready to go on a backpack elk hunting trip with my kids, my 2 oldest sons. So we're going to start at the trailhead. We're going to drive our rigs up. We're going to park. And at the trailhead, we're going to start this climb. Or it's not a climb. We're going to go up East Creek Trail. It's a flat trail for about 2.5 miles. And then we're going to climb. And that's the grueling part. And that's the part that makes me nervous because I'm already a big dude. I already outweigh my kids by 80 pounds. Oh, wow. So we're going to climb and hunt as we climb. But this bowl we're hunting in only goes so high. It has a summit. And that's as high as you can go. And then once you get to the summit of this bowl, we have to kind of turn around and hunt the other side of the bowl. We begin to descend. And we descend and hunt all the way back to the truck or the end of the trail. So those are the 5 stages of really any progression when you climb a mountain, right? You have the trailhead, you have the climb, you have the summit, you have the descent, and you have the trails in. And this book draws that out. And so the first most foundational component of manhood, do you want me to give all 5 or just the first one?
This is your show at this point. You can do
how funny. So let's just do this. The first aspect of manhood, the trailhead of manhood, the starting point of manhood. Now think about this from a secular standpoint. It is protecting integrity. And every one of our definitions has a progressive tense, verb tense. Protecting integrity. That is the foundational part of it. If a man is not a man of integrity, he loses an aspect of manhood. We've seen these guys lately falling morally, these mega church guys. Yeah. Right now, there's a podcast out about the fall of Mars Hill, going after the pastor there. All of those things relate to integrity. And so I believe that integrity is 2 things. It is the foundational component of manhood. As a man trying to leave an inspired legacy, I'm never going to raise my kids to be liars, cheaters, stealers, adulterers, government-supported, lazy gluttons. I'm never going to do that, right? I want those kids to be men of honor. It is the foundational component of manhood, and it's also the functional component of manhood. We look at Adam and Eve in the garden. They're naked and have no shame, the Bible says, right? I mean, can you imagine that?
Yeah.
So as soon as they sinned and sin entered the world, they started covering up. Now imagine, what does it look like to cover up? I got thrown out of the locker room when I was in high school naked. So I started doing this thing. I'm covering the package, right? And so they start covering up. They start bending over. They aren't upright. In the book of Job, God calls Job numerous times upright. He's upright. He's upright. He's a man of integrity. So we, as the human species, are the only creatures that God has made to walk the planet Earth with our sex organs exposed. We are made to stand upright, sex organs exposed. There's no other animal like us besides Sasquatch. So sin causes us to hunch over and cover up. But the man of integrity walks upright on full display before the world. He's his best version and his authentic self. And he says, come at me, bro. There's nothing I have to hide. And so that's the foundation of manhood. It all starts there, because it doesn't matter what you believe. If you lack integrity, you lack the greatest gift a man can give another man, and that's respect.
100%. And I agree that this has earned the right to be number one, because I feel like, especially today, and it's probably always been this way, but protecting integrity, it's almost like trying to wrestle a greased pig, right? Everything that we are exposed to in the media and in the world tempts us to do what it takes to win, right? Get the good looking girl, just cheat a little bit and it'll be worth it in the end. And, just tell this little lie, and we almost reward the outcomes of lacking integrity. Not outright, but in a roundabout way. Satan has a sneaky way of getting us to lose our integrity, for sure.
Well, I coached football with a guy who got fired after his second season for cheating on his wife with the equipment manager. And I remember at a practice one time, him yelling at the kids, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And I remember I yelled back at him, what about marriage? I don't know where that comes from. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's just ridiculous. So you're right.
Okay. So what's the second one?
Yeah. So the second one is this, we live in dangerous times. We live in a culture where, masculinity, true masculinity, biblical masculinity is vilified. And we live in a culture right now that says, hey, if you are this cancel culture garbage, if you are a white male, a Christian male, you are the ultimate oppressor. If you're a white woman, you're oppressed. If you're a black woman, you're doubly oppressed. If you're a black lesbian woman, you're triply oppressed. And this crazy world, and it's all pointing to men. And so as we climb this mountain, the second point is fighting apathy. We have to fight against the things that want to push us back into complacency. Apathy is losing the ability to feel. So if I were to pull out my knife, I could take and start cutting off the calluses on my hand. And even though it looks really cool and gross, I don't feel a thing, because there is no feeling in a calloused hand. That's interesting. If you spell the word callous for the hand, it's C-A-L-L-U-S. Over a heart, it's C-A-L-L-O-U-S. You see, a calloused hand is great. It protects me from injury, right? It gives me an extra layer of protection. But if you put a callus over a heart, that man loses the ability to feel for and care about the things he should deeply care about: his marriage, his family, his church, his community, his legacy. These things go away if a man doesn't care. And we live in a world, Mark, where 40% of kids are born out of wedlock. And of those 40% that are born to a married couple, 50% of those will see their parents get divorced. And of those 50% of those won't see their dad for an entire year after the divorce. So we live in a world where the dads don't care about their kids. They are apathetic. And it's gotten so bad, Mark, that whenever I'm in public and I see a dad who's engaged with his kids, I literally will walk over there and go, thank you for your service. Yeah. You are giving your kids a legacy that no other kids are going to give them, because Dad, you're here in the picture. So thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. We have to fight against, Black Lives Matter. I don't want to get political, but this is, I went on their website and they are anti-nuclear family. That's in their mission statement. Yep. And I'm like, how could I ever support a mission statement that is anti the man and the nuclear family? I just will never do it. And so,
and that's also anti-God. If you're anti-family, you're anti-God.
It's anti-Christ. And so I can either sit back and go, you know what, I'm just going to shut my mouth and do my thing. Or I can say, you know what, I'm going to fight against these things that are pushing men down the mountain. I'm a big dude, buddy. It's not easy for me to climb a mountain. I've got a lot of gravity and a lot of beef pushing me down. It takes resistance, but it's that resistance that makes me stronger. And so we're telling guys, listen, man, it's hard to have a great marriage. Do it anyway. It's hard to raise a great kids and leave a godly legacy. Do it anyway. It's hard to serve in your church. It's easy to be anonymous in the church pews, but get in the church and serve anyway. So that's what we're asking guys to do. Do the hard thing. Make decisions against yourself.
100%. Continue to climb that mountain. Fight against that resistance, because I think that one of the biggest things that men are affected by today is complacency, apathy. We get stuck in our comfort zone, and maybe we have a decent income and things are good. Why do I need God? Why do I need to push myself outside of my comfort zone and everything's just fine? And you do that long enough, and that's when you become a victim of apathy, and that's when Satan, I think, can sink his teeth into you. And that's what we're seeing across the world. That's so true. Hey, men of Sioux Falls, men of South Dakota, men of this country, comfort is the enemy. I'm telling you right now, comfort is the enemy. Do not live the comfortable life. Amen, brother. Okay, we got to push forward. What's the third one? So far, we haven't talked about Jesus at all, right? If you're like a guy who doesn't believe in God, you're like, this is awesome. But the apex of manhood, the summit of manhood, man, the time when you put your stake in the ground, that is what I say, pursuing God passionately. And it comes from the Greek word dioko, where Paul says, I press on. It's a hunting word. It's a track word. It means to pursue or chase after. And I believe this, Mark, and I know this is controversial, but I believe I have a real simple theology, and here it is, that you will never be the man that God has called you to be, the ultimate man, your best version, without radical surrender to Jesus Christ. And I'm not saying I'm a Christian, I go to church. I'm saying radical surrender to Jesus Christ. Galatians 2:20 stuff, man. I've been crucified with Christ. Therefore, I no longer live, but Jesus Christ now lives in me. The life I live in the flesh, I live for the Son of God who loved me and gave himself up for me. It's when a man truly surrenders, man. He puts his stake in the ground and he raises the white flag and says, I surrender. I think there are a lot of guys out there that are great men. I mean, honestly, great men. But without Jesus, they will never be their best version. And even if they achieve great things, they're going to point back to themselves as accomplishing it and not Jesus. He wants to put his men on display at the top of the mountain so that we can put him on display. And so my theology is very simple. Jesus is the ultimate alpha male. He says it himself, I am the alpha and the omega. How could we ever live our best version without radically surrendering to the God who created that version? He's the one who knows our original design. So we have to follow it, and we need radical surrender to do so. 100% in every dark corner of our lives. That means what we watch on the computer at night, who we're talking to when we're not in front of our wives, what we're talking about, how we handle our finances, like everything across the board. Yeah, that's the hard part, right? Because we are going to fail, but it's bouncing back after failure that really matters. Do we bounce back? Do we have that ability to bounce back? Yeah. So, and absolutely. You touched on another interesting point, in the fact that there are very great men out there who are not Christians. And guys hearing that who aren't Christians might latch onto it and be like, yeah, I'm just fine. I can, look at what I've done in my own life on my own. And to your point, they treat themselves as their own lowercase g God. Yeah, right? For sure. I think that's what we're seeing in society as a whole. Is just we're treating mankind as our own God, and we're not looking to the one true God. And I think we were made, I'm getting off track here, but we were made to pursue God. It's just baked into our DNA. Absolutely. And people try to substitute it with all these different things, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, whatever, go down the list. And not that some of those things are bad, but you know what I mean? Like we invent our own God to substitute the fact that we should be pursuing the true God. Yeah, and we don't even realize the idols that we have put ahead of God. I mean, I would ask guys, listen to this podcast, are you surrendered to Jesus Christ? Let me look at your bank account. Yeah. Your bank account will tell me if you're surrendered to Jesus Christ or not. Let me look at your watch. Where are you spending your time? That will tell me. Let me look at your phone.
Let me look at your text threads. Let me look at your time on social media. There's so many determinants that would tell me, man, let me look at your bank account. You know what I mean? These things. So it's constantly keeping ourselves in checks and balances, because our desire, our propensity, I should say, is to walk away from God. I mean, that's our propensity. There's so much in the world. We have to every day just get up and say, I'm going to run to you, Lord. I'm going to run to you.
100%. Okay, this next one, I'm excited about. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is really you're a sweet spot, man. So what I have found, I was a pastor for 25 years, and now we run this nonprofit Christian ministry. But what I noticed in the church, it was really interesting. So guys would get to the top of this. They would come to Christ, and they have this moment, and they truly have this moment, this summit, this apex, this top of the world moment. And then I noticed something, because men are so, we just don't know what to do next. So we take our kids, we go, I need to go to church. So we take our kids, we take them to church. We maybe enroll them in Christian school. We just let the church disciple our kids. We defer leadership. And a man can defer everything except final responsibility as the spiritual leader. And so I was carrying a buck out of the hills in my 20s, and I was sliding all over the mountain. We had these two, my buddy and I killed this buck. So we got half and half. And I remember he leaned over and he goes, Jimmy. I go, what? He said, hey, nose over toes, nose over toes. And so it was, as soon as I leaned into the mountain slope, I got traction. And that people don't realize, on Mount Everest, every year more people die on the descent than the ascent. And so we think the descent is cruise control, man. I gave my life to Jesus, all is easy. And no, man, this is when it gets hard. Yes. Because now you've got to navigate the rocks, and you've got to navigate the slope, and you've got to navigate the pending weather. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, take your kids to church. Yes, have your kids in youth group and children's church. Yes, go to a marriage class with your wife. But you are the guy who's in charge of discipling your kids. And this is where guys get nervous. They go, okay, Jim, what do I do? And so what I used to do, Mark, is I would tell them all the things I did as a paid Christian, as a pastor. And I realized I can't do that. So what I would tell your guys who are going, okay, so what do I do as a spiritual leader? And I would say this is deep stuff, Mark. Are you ready?
Ready.
I'd say, do something, anything.
Something is better than.
In other words, let's say you don't pray for your meals. Start praying for your meals. Let's start there, guy. Let's say you're praying for your meals, but you only have meals once a week or twice a week. Let's try to do this every, 5 nights a week. One of the things I'm doing now is whenever I go to a restaurant, I tell the waitress, hey, I'm going to pray for the meal and I'm going to pray for you. How can I do it? We've had some radical experiences with waiters and waitresses. So I've taken it to the next level, because my kids are out of the house now. So I've got to do something to be a spiritual leader for my wife. Do you read the Bible with your wife? No. Okay. How about this? How about getting to a Bible study where they read the Bible? And then the next step maybe is read the Bible once a week to your wife. Just take it, go in steps. What happens in the church, Mark, is pastors try to brag about things and overwhelm people. And guys just go, I can't do that. And they check out. And what I want to tell guys listening is this: if a pastor says he reads his Bible every day of the week, that means 4 to 5 days. If he says he works out every day of the week, it means 4 to 5 days. If he says he prays his wife every week, it means 4 to 5 days. If he says there are 300 people in your church, it means 175. So just take it with a grain of salt, because the reality is usually not what is painted. And I'm not saying pastors are liars. I'm just saying pastors will sometimes use some hyperbolic statements to motivate. And I think sometimes it works against guys. So I would just tell guys, man, do something. You're a guy listening to this podcast right now and you don't go to church. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
That's so easy. You get in a car and you drive 5 blocks and you go to church.
Yeah.
It's so easy. So that's what I would say, Mark.
To take it a step further, that specific example, don't just go to church. Don't rely on the church to feed your family. Like, continue to feed your family on your own throughout the week, right?
Well,
don't rely on the school to raise your kids, right?
I agree 100%, but I would say this though. I just want to caution that if a guy's listening who doesn't go to church right now, he could be overwhelmed by that statement. And I would say, bro, it's like a fat guy. A fat guy wants to go to the gym on New Year's Day and work out 5 days a week. I'm like, listen, fat guy, you bet you're fat. So start 1 day a week. Do that for 6 months, then go to 2 days a week. You know what I mean? So we want to give these guys something they can actually accomplish, because you and I both know what they need to do.
Yeah. It's a great point of clarification.
Yeah. Because I agree with you 100%, but you're talking varsity ball, man. You got a guy who's barely made the freshman team.
Yeah. No, that is a good point. Hey, here's another way to lead your family. Tell your son, you've got to mow the yard today.
Heck yes.
My son is mowing the yard right outside my office window. So I don't know if you guys can hear this through the microphone or not, but I apologize.
Oh, I heard it. Well, here's the yes. Yeah, hey, park your bulldozer keys and park your helicopter keys a miles away and let your kids figure it out for themselves.
There you go.
Walk them through their failures, throw the participation trophies away, and let your kids figure it out. They will do it. You did it.
Yep, 100%. Okay, so wrapping up this list of 5, what's the last one?
Yeah, so the last one, and I'm just going to confess this to you, Mark. It's kind of a chip on my shoulder. In 2000, I noticed something in ministry, that how many pastors that I serve with are no longer in the ministry. In fact, many of them have fallen morally. And I realized, I started thinking about that part, and I started thinking about life, and I started thinking about people who I used to know who were solid believers who aren't walking with the Lord anymore. And I had an experience in 2012 that deeply impacted me. My stepfather, who I was very close to, took a gun that my mom, I picked out for him for Christmas, a Remington Model 700, 270, BDL, and he put it under his chin and blew his head off. Mm. And so he left the world with with a question mark. A lot of questions. Nobody really knew why he did it. Nobody understood the cause. He just was gone. After 38 years of marriage, he was gone. And so I had the responsibility of getting the gun from the sheriff's department, cleaning the blood off the gun, selling the gun. And I kept the box in my office as a mnemonic device to finish strong. You know, in the Bible, in John 19:30, I've got a couple pet peeves. Here's one of them. In John 19:30, if you have the right Bible translation, and I only use the ones that have this certain thing, when Jesus cried out on the cross, "It is finished," he did it with an exclamation mark. Now, some Bible translations put a period, and I just think that's a wrong interpretation. I think it's very clear to me personally that he screamed out from the cross in a Braveheart manner, "It is finished," screamed it out, finished strong. So I believe this 5th point is simply this: finishing strong. And guys have asked me, how do I do that? And my guys, like your guys, our target is these guys in the stress bubble of life, these guys with kids in the home. They're trying to raise their kids. They're saying, how do I leave an inspired legacy? How do I finish strong? And guys, here it is right here. This is why you came for this podcast. When you get home at work, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and you're tired from a day of work, guys, listen, your day has just begun, because your legacy in life happens between the windows of 6 to 9. That's when it happens. What are you going to do in that window? Are you going to finish that day strong, or are you going to finish that wrong? Are you going to put down your remote and pick up your kid, get off the couch and get out and hug your wife? That is it. And if you can finish today strong and tomorrow strong and every day strong, compounded over time, will equal not only a strong life, but a strong legacy that's been inspired by you.
Mm. That one stung a little bit, man. I needed to hear that, because as a business owner, and I work from home, it's very easy to work past 5 and bleed into that 6 to 9 block. And yeah, it's too easy to do. And so many guys do it. I'm guilty of it. I know a lot of guys who are as well. And I would say this, just practically speaking, get a handle on your day, plan your days. Because if you don't plan your days, somebody else will plan them for you, or they just turn into a big dumpster fire and you just run out of time, and you run out of time for your family. You've got to bake time into your days, into your weeks for your family, and be really intentional about it.
Yeah. You know,
I don't have that figured out fully. I'm talking to myself in the mirror right now.
No, I've been there, man. I tweeted something the other day. I had this revelation, and I tweeted something I think you'll really appreciate based on your vision. And here's what I tweeted. What will be put on your tombstone is what you put to the grindstone. Mm. So, and Lee Iacocca once said, he said, I never met a dying man who said I spent more time at the office. And so
Yeah.
I would encourage the guys listening who want to leave a legacy, that those people who will be at your bedside the day you cross over into eternity, those are the ones that you want to leave a legacy for, not the guys you work with. The people who are going to come and weep at your funeral, those are the ones that you want to fight to leave a legacy. And you have to do it between this window of 6 to 9. My kids are out of the house now, and I am blessed to say I am reaping the rewards of doing that window very, very well.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, it was hard. It was so hard, but yeah.
It is hard. Yeah. It's and it kind of circles back to some of the earlier points, right? Keep climbing, be intentional, swim against the current, because society is going to pull you in all kinds of directions, right? Hey, go out and play golf with the guys, go out and have some drinks, do this, do that. And it becomes very, very easy to compounded with just work demands to let your family and the things that are most important in life take a back seat.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, man, I've got a slew of additional questions, but I feel like this is kind of maybe a good point to come to a close. We've talked about legacy quite a bit. Well, before I get there, I don't want to wrap this thing up without giving you an opportunity to talk specifically about your ministry.
Oh, okay.
Men in the Arena. So for those listening, watching who aren't familiar with that, tell us a little bit about Men in the Arena.
Yeah, our vision is to trust Jesus Christ with building an army of men in the arena who are becoming their best version in Christ and changing their world, because we believe when a man gets it, everyone wins. So we believe that best version in Christ, that best version comes through Christ, that apex, that summit. And so we do certain things to help guys get there. Our ground level, if we're going to use that mountain illustration, is really our podcast, which last year had guys from 122 countries download it. Our Facebook forum, which has 11,000 men from 100 countries in it. That's really foundational for us. And those are totally free. We send an equipping blast out every week that just the pure desire is just to equip guys. And then we've written several curriculum books, and we're launching a bunch of virtual teams right now in the fall, where guys can go to our website and sign up. We have an assessment for guys to kind of grade where they are within those 5 categories. And then we put them into small groups, or they can buy our resources and start small groups. And that's really our desire, because once they go through that, we believe that they're going to get into that best version. And the top of that mountain for them is now they're going to go change their world. They're going to go back and serve and love and do the things that you and I have been talking about. So that's really our desire for guys.
I love it, man. So where can people go to connect with you, connect with Men in the Arena, and keep track of what you're up to and even the next book coming out?
Yeah, totally. So if they just Google Men in the Arena, we're going to pop up everywhere. Our Instagram account has about 9,000 guys on it. Men in the Arena, Twitter. If they want to reach me personally, I'm at Jim W. Ramos. They can reach me there, and get involved in our forum and get involved there, and whatever we can do to serve others. We're all about collaboration. So we like to partner with other ministries and put them on display, because we think this is a big battle that we can't fight alone. We need guys like Inspired Legacy to partner with us and all around the world, man. So yeah, we love collaboration because we believe in God's kingdom.
I love it, man. Powerful stuff. Okay. We've talked about legacy quite a bit throughout this conversation. A lot of guys have different things that come to mind when they think of the term legacy, but if you, Jim Ramos, were to leave an inspired legacy, I'm curious what that means to you.
Yeah, we started the podcast today, and I didn't plan this, it just happened, with John 10:10, which is my life verse, which says, I have come that you may have life and live it to the full, or live it abundantly. So God has called me to an abundant or a full life. But the first part of that verse says the enemy comes to steal, and it's a progression: steal and kill and destroy. So he wants to steal your relationship with your kids. He wants to steal, you single guys listening, your virginity. He wants to steal your integrity. He wants to kill also. He wants to take you out physically. He wants to kill you. He wants to kill your marriage. He wants it divorced. He wants to kill your relationship with your kids. But ultimately, he wants to destroy you. And that is a big deal, because what happened in the Old Testament, when a new king would come in and take over, he would oftentimes destroy the previous king's lineage, completely wipe them out. And so this is really serious. Satan is after your forever. He wants to take you out. But the thing he really wants to take out, he wants you to be the last Jesus follower to ever be recorded in the book of life. And so I know that fact, and that's crazy to me. And so because I know that Satan wants to destroy me and my kids, it gives me a renewed passion to make sure that my kids are coming with me up the mountain. And so I use that illustration. I'm going to go down, I'm going to grab my kids, the trailhead, I'm going to bring them up to the mountain with me, and I'm just never going to stop. And so my kids, the illustration I love, because I'm a visual guy, I imagine putting a big rubber band, you know those rubber bands you can work out with?
Yeah.
I actually did this with my kid at church one day. I put it over his head, and I said, now, when my son begins to pull away in his teen years or his adult years, I'm only going to let him go so far before the tension causes me to engage back with him. And so I've lived my life with this, where my kids are doing this, where I'm constantly engaging. I do not let my kids get disengaged from me, even as they're adults, because the toughest time to parent your kids spiritually is that 20-something range. It's not when they're younger and they can obey you because I said so. And so I want to make sure that I guard my legacy spiritually by putting that rubber band over my kids and pulling and kind of letting them go their own path, but then re-engaging with them, because I realize what the enemy's plans are. And I realize that for me to live a full life, I can't live it unless my kids are with me.
I love that visual, man. It's this has been a really great conversation, and I cannot stress that enough. This has been really good. Guys, I want you to go out, check out this book, Strong Men, Dangerous Times. Go seek out Jim on social media. Check out this book. Jim, man, appreciate your time, and consider yourself booked in the spring when your next book comes out. All right.
Hey, I got to tell you, Mark, before we go, just tell your listeners, you do an excellent job. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and I just want to tell your listeners that you do an excellent job, and I'm very, very impressed. And so your listeners are blessed to have you as the leader of their tribe.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. We'll talk soon.
God bless.
Guys, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's conversation, share it with a friend and subscribe to the show so you don't miss future episodes like the one you heard today. And be sure to check today's show notes for all the ways you can stay plugged into the Inspired Legacy, including my free download called 9 Ways to Be a Better Dad. You can sign up for my free weekly devotional called Inspired Inbox. And you can join the private Facebook group, a community of other like-minded men looking to become the best husbands and fathers they can be. So get plugged in, like, subscribe, leave a review, and help more guys find the show, because we need more men battling together for the sake of the next generation. Until next time, live inspired.